talking about it. Calgary Today with Joe McFarland on 770 CHQR.
I love it in this day and age when you start to prepare for things, and here you are getting on your phone trying to make sure that you got the nice little post up before we start drinking the wine here. Eric Southward from Coop Wine, Spirits and Beer, because it is Wine Wednesday, brought to you by Coop Wine, Spirits and Beer, where membership pays. Sign up and start earning today. What is your Instagram handle?
Yeah, it's just Eric Southward. So Eric with a C and Southward like you're driving southward down the Deerfoot, all one word, all lowercase.
Follow him because he's posting a picture. I mean, I don't know if we managed to get that one done.
I did
before that. Oh, it's into the in the world,
in the Twitterverse. Yeah.
So we've got an Australian wine here today, and before we get into the specifics of this, talk about Australian wine and what makes them different from others.
Well, I think biggest thing is the climate. Like, it's just, when we think of Australia, it's really hot, like, which means the grapes get really ripe down there. And the wines tend to be quite full-bodied and smooth and velvety, higher alcohols as well. And in the 90s, like, it was kind of what we were drinking. Like, Shiraz had a bit of a moment then, and you know, brands like Yellowtail and Wolf Blast were synonymous with what we were all kind of drinking back then. But they're kind of hit like this glass ceiling with price and their industry, and they've kind of fallen out of favor. They're kind of been a little forgotten about in our market, and I think this is a brand called Gara. Been around for well over 100 years now, and making great wine. And I just think Australia is a place where you can find a lot of value right now.
I did mention social media, and I forgot. Oh yeah, hi Facebook Live. So with Australian wines, is there? I was going to ask about this earlier. With Christmas coming up, is there a key to pairing things up when it comes to the meat in particular, or is it all meat in a certain wine, or does each meat have a certain wine to pair with?
Yeah, first of all, I think food and wine pairing is a little overrated, because it's not like everyone makes the same dish the exact same way with the exact same sides and the exact same spicing, right? So it's trial and error is really fun with wine and food. You just eat and drink and kind of find the right match. But the general rule of thumb is lighter foods with lighter wines. So if you're gonna, roast a salmon, you're gonna pair something lighter. It can be a lighter red for Christmas dinner. And then the other extreme, if you're gonna do something heavier, like let's say a lot of people are doing like a roast beef or maybe a leg of lamb or something like that, then you're getting into the bigger, richer, heavier wines, something like this. This is a Grenache, which tends to grow in warmer places around the world, like Australia or southern France or Spain. And it just goes with those things really well, like great with lamb or your favorite steak or roast beef.
See, it's funny that way, is I would have assumed the opposite. And only because when I drink a red, it gets warm fuzzy. When you're eating turkey, for example, you're warm and fuzzy, right?
Absolutely.
And so you'd think that would be you'd overdo the warm and fuzzy. You'd think that you'd pair something heavier with a fish, for example, and something lighter with. So that's interesting.
And personal preference comes into play too. Right. And I think with turkey, you want a lighter red or even a white, because you're getting a little sleepy. It's quite rich. Usually there's some mashed potatoes and stuffing and gravy and all these things that are heavy. Right. And you need something kind of acidic to just wake you up. You need something bright and fresh to cut through the fat, so to speak. Right. That's why there's a grape called Riesling that is often paired with, which is a white, which is paired with turkey. And then Pinot Noir or Gamay, two lighter reds that are very zippy and refreshing. And again, just so you don't fall asleep by the end of the meal. Those are really great pairing options.
Is that sort of, and to go, we've kind of hinted about this the last few weeks here, is when it comes to hosting Christmas gatherings, is it better to go kind of up the middle in a sense and pick maybe something that a lighter red, for example, or maybe a stronger white, versus trying to go off kilter and go real strong red or something along those lines?
You want something that's kind of medium, like kind of vanilla, not that it tastes like vanilla, but just, you don't want to get too crazy with the flavors or the textures. You don't want something extremely light and braceingly acidic, or exceptionally full-bodied and a wine that tastes kind of weird with unusual flavors. You want something safe. You want, if you're having 15 people over for dinner, you want most of them to like what you're serving, right? And there's some wines like this Grenache, which are they're very fruity, they're velvety, they're very appealing. This tastes like really ripe cherries, and, there's a bit of a spiciness, but not anything weird. And so people can have this before the meal. They can have it after the meal, you know, as you're sitting in your living room and just kind of passing out after a big dinner. Like, it's just very versatile.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never done such a thing. When it comes to sort of the idea of hosting the different crowds and different sizes, would you recommend asking, especially for smaller gatherings, would you recommend going to asking them straight up about what kind of wine they are and then buy in bulk or ahead of time, or should you be waiting until the day before?
You know, it's really nice, you know, and I'm a big fan of saving money when I buy wine. Mm-hmm. You know, at Co-op, we always offer 10% off 6 or more bottles, right? And we always have things on sale. Like, I don't know why people are only buying one at a time. Like, you're saving no money that way. And the Christmas season, you're going to plow through a bunch of wine. So have a few on hand. And it is nice to offer an option. Like, just say, hey, both of these will go with the meal. Do you have a preference? You know what I mean? We can go white, we can go rosé, we can go red, and get them involved. And again, it kind of takes the pressure off a little bit, because people often feel pressured to like something, and kind of makes them feel like, oh yeah, I recognize this, and puts them at ease, and the meal gets off to a good start.
Kind of the variety is the spice of life.
Absolutely.
Idea, in a sense. When it comes to this wine in particular, let's get down to the basics on it. What is it all about before we actually take a taste?
Yeah, so Gara is a producer, been around since 1946, actually. So these vines have been around for quite a long time. They're a biodynamic producer, which is organics on steroids, essentially. So they're really making really great wine, great grapes. Right now it's on sale for $24.99, down from $36.49. This is the Old Vine Grenache. And again, it's just really, if you like full-bodied wines that are like very velvety, this isn't sour, it's not bitter. Grenache is one of these rare grapes that can produce really heavy wines without being too bitter or sour. So just really appealing. It's one of, you know, our best, I would say, premium wines, our biggest sellers, kind of in that premium category. And when you're saving, you know, that much money, that it's always kind of nice, you know, leading up to the holidays, you can buy a few and kind of have them ready to go.
You mentioned that this one's going to taste like a cherry, and I can smell the cherry already. Is cherry a common taste for wine? Because I think this might be the first one I've had.
Yeah, it can be. Like, every grape variety, when you ferment them, if they're made well, like Grenache should always have this kind of cherry or even Kirsch, like that boozy Kirsch drink. It'll always have that vibe to it. There are other grapes like Sangiovese from Tuscany will have that flavor as well. Some people love it, some people don't. So again, if you've had a Grenache, it's the main grape of the Côte du Rhône. Many people have had a wine from the Rhône Valley. But it's very appealing. It's great with a ton of things that we tend to eat here in Alberta.
So wild stab in the dark. Tell me if I'm right, because I'm trying to figure out if I'm actually figuring this thing out after 3 months. This would go well with the turkey?
Yeah, absolutely.
Winner!
winner, turkey dinner.
Eric Southward, always a pleasure to have you in here and then talking a little shop. It is Wine Wednesday, brought to you by the Social Collection Wines. Taste the social world of wine through the Social Collection. There you go. Only at Co-op. Eric, again, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.